Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast, here every Tuesday and Friday. I'm Luke Owen, DAD. I'm joined by the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton. Please do subscribe on WrestleTalk, for goodness sake, if you haven't already. Subscribe here on YouTube, follow an Apple podcast, do it on Spotify, leave a comment, ratings, reviews, and all that good stuff. Or you can do what Blake the Ninja has suggested. Said, holy, please stop the QR bit. I thought it was going to be gone forever when you guys mentioned the fans dislike it, but it still continued. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I was walking to work today, and as I did, it's really sad, and I'm sorry to start the podcast in such a downer, but I was just, I saw this, like, lump on the floor, and I was like, this is not good, so I went over, and I thought, and it was a horse. Oh, no. It was a horse that had taken its last breath. Oh, no. And I was really sad about it, and because, obviously, there's a building site nearby at the moment, it was just absolutely covered in debris and in you know, soot and all of the building materials, and I was really, I mean, that's no way for a majestic creature like a horse to be laying to rest. So
don't you hate to see that?
Yeah, so I grabbed a branch and I started to try and sort of like bash away all of the dust, and I realized that as I was beating this dead horse, underneath all of the dust was a QR code.
What? Yeah,
and I clicked it, and I arrived in this chair and materialized out of nowhere.
It's incredible the lengths that we will go to, including animal cruelty. Like that's what we'll do to push this. But can't trust the YouTube algorithm, so we have to go to some extreme lengths sometimes.
Got to do what you got to do.
And apologies once again for those who wanted to hear our traitors discussion. We did the 20 minutes on it before we started recording. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's like premium content. You can't even get it on Patreon.
But speaking of Patreon, hello, we will be having a Patreon bonus podcast coming out today as well, because on this episode, we're going to be giving our thoughts, feelings, vibes, reactions to Unreal Season 2 on Netflix, WWE Unreal, as well as reviewing AEW Dynamite. But over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk, myself and Dan Layton will be doing an episode-by-episode breakdown of the show, giving our thoughts as each episode individually, thoughts and feelings on it, going through certain moments that come up there. But for this episode, it is going to be more of a generalized thoughts on the series. So Dan Layton, as someone who actually didn't finish the first series of Unreal until just the other day, what are your thoughts on the Unreal formats in general and then season 2?
So I am from the generation who absolutely devoured DVD extras. Like, I love a behind the scenes documentary. I love a making of. That's a real lost art.
Is this a 3-disc DVD collection?
You know what I mean?
I will have that.
Thank you kindly. Oh, it's an ultimate steelbook. I'm in.
Sorry, is this a Dutch cut of Blade Runner? Yes, I will have that one, thank you, because I would like to see what slight differences there might be.
What's that? You're going to show me a behind-the-scenes documentary that's longer than the feature length of your production? I'm taking it. So, like, you've got your Pirates of the Caribbean special box set. You've got your extended editions, the hour-and-a-half long documentary about the making of The Social Network, all about it.
Kevin Smith bloody loved a DVD extra. Hundreds of hours of the stuff.
I love them. So this is right up my street. I don't think this series is as good / interesting as I found the first series. The reason I didn't finish the first series was just simply because I was really busy.
You did a Masters.
I was, I don't mention it very often, but like I was really busy at that particular time when it came out, and I have object permanence issues. So once the conversation had moved on, so had I. So I never got around to it. I should finish that. I should finish it. And then I never did. So the incentive to this podcast was quite helpful. So I broke the habit and binged the whole thing. And I do think that it was less... there was less for me to sink my teeth into this series.
Yeah.
The reason I bring up the DVD extras is because it feels like this is that. But because we don't have DVD extras anymore and everything is monetizable, this is DVD extras being given a big feature on Monday Night Raw and a whole series with Netflix budget.
I said in the first series that, you know, because for all of this, like, it's peeling back the curtain like you've never seen before. I do think it was more or less the same sort of
WWE
stuff.
24.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
It feels like WWE 24, but every now and again you'll get a scene from the writer's room.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're like, once per episode, maybe twice per episode, you'll have what feels like such a staged conversation between the creative team about this. This is a thing that my wife and I talk about when it comes to reality TV shows called fake stakes.
Oh, yeah.
Which is when a TV show has to... There was a great one at Christmas when there was a documentary of Legoland at Christmas. And that is actually such a well-oiled machine. There isn't a lot of drama about doing this. So the show has to fake some drama, has to create some fake stakes for the show to keep you hooked. So there was a bit like when some trees were being delivered in and a truck just couldn't quite get around a corner, and it was like, whoa, tune into the for the next bit because got to see if the truck gets around the corner. Comes back, the truck got around perfectly fine. Yeah. They were doing an outside stage show, but then it started to rain, and it was like, oh man, this weather might complete. Not in Windsor. We haven't got a lot of time to complete all of these. Doing this in like November in Windsor, of course you got a bit of rain, and you come back, no, it didn't affect them whatsoever. It's like pure fake stakes. And I felt like there's when they were doing some of the backstage like creative meetings, there were some fake stakes on show. The biggest one being when Bruce Pritchard was like, what if Pat McAfee beat Gunther?
Yeah.
So, bugger off. No, you didn't have this conversation.
And yeah, I believe that they did, because how many times have we talked about this? Like, I found this actually, so I found those scenes quite illuminating this series. I quite liked that there was a bit of conflict. There wasn't much conflict in the writers' room last season, but there was a bit of it here, and we'll go into more depth on the deep dives in each episode. But so you use your 24 comparison. I really like WWE 24.
Me too.
I really like seeing inside a writer's room specifically. There was a documentary about how a Friends episode gets put together. It's called The One That Goes Behind the Scenes. I think I might have mentioned it before. But it's available on YouTube. It was also available in the season 10 DVD extras. But it came out just before the launch of the 6th series, because it's to do with the premiere episode of the 6th season of Friends.
Which jog my memory was
when they come back from Vegas. So Ross and Rachel are dealing with having got drunk married.
Great storyline.
Yeah. And I watched it. I must have been all of 10, I think. And I absolutely devoured this episode of television, because I found it to be like I was getting a peek into Santa's workshop. Every aspect of it, but specifically the writer's room. It starts with them coming back from the summer break, having a look at what sets they've left up. And then they realize pretty quickly, they're like, we'll leave all these sets up because the episode will be in Vegas. And then they realize pretty quickly that there's not a lot of story in Vegas. So they're like, how do we deal with that? And what do we do? And then they spend long days around this big table, no laptops out because, there weren't many laptops.
It's the 90s.
It's the 90s. Of all of these, and the way they describe it is, I'm surrounded by incredibly smart people making jokes. And I just was like, oh my God, what like heaven that must be. And ever since then, that's what's brought me into this. My dad was always like, you'll never get a job watching telly. But I always wanted to be involved somehow in making, which I think is going to be really interesting about this. I described it upstairs. I think you and I are going to come at this from completely different perspectives, because I'm coming at it from the perspective of a performer and sort of a writer and all the rest of it, and you're coming at it from the perspective of someone who is a fan and a critic and is really good at putting everything in its context. And I think that's going to present different reactions to different bits.
The thing I was also so curious about this was how WWE presents themselves.
Exactly, and that's the context.
That's the context of, like, in particular when they were talking about the R-Truth situation, and it was like a pure PR spin episode about how the R-Truth situation was handled. Even though they do have, like, Cody Rhodes being like, you don't do that, and Rhea Ripley being like, I was gutted when they did it. But they were like, we never released him. It was never released. It was never actually fully released. It was a negotiation tactic. It was like,
which, like, here's the thing. I get. I understand.
I would say, I don't know if I believe you.
Right. Well, that's what
I think you told him we're not going to renew your contract, and it was like, and he might have read that as we told him to release, and he was like, yeah, I read it as being released. And that's because I think they told him we're not going to renew your contract.
And I would argue that he's wrong. Because he's not being released if they're not renewing his contract.
Which is when we did
but then he's well within his rights to be like, I'm being let go because they don't want to renew my contract. And that's, if it is a negotiation, they tried to call his bluff and he called it right back. And that's what's, I mean, me and workers, we'd save it for the deep dive. Because I found it all fascinating.
Or like the other side of it is Ed Koskey not saying the name Sasha Banks.
That was really
just
interesting.
Being like Naomi and her partner at that time.
But then showing Sasha Banks. Like,
Naomi said it.
Yeah.
Naomi was like, I was tagging with Sasha Banks. But Ed Koskey, WWE's long-time writer Ed Koskey, very well WWE trained.
Yes.
Don't say certain things.
And this is where it ties back into your other point about the production stakes and things like that. I always find it really interesting with reality TV. If you when it gets to a certain point, people start to come wise to tricks, because this is so common in all reality TV, right? It's reality as far as reality goes. Like Total Divas was a reality show. There were storylines. Do you know what I mean?
The only way is Essex is staged to a degree.
Exactly. And like it's in Drag Race is a great example. If you look at the early seasons of Drag Race, there's a fantastic bit in so Kelly Mantle is a drag queen who was eliminated in the first episode of season 6, which was like 2013, I think it was. It was a long time ago when it was still trying to hatch what it was. And she says she's telling the story of her putting on her makeup or whatever, and the producers are like, Kelly, why didn't you ask Vivacious about this? And Kelly's like, oh, I'm trying to do my makeup. Like, I'm sorry, I'm up against the clock here. And they're like, no, you have to ask her about this. So she's like, oh, what was it like growing up gay and like in where you came from? Like, whatever. She's told to ask a question, so they start having that conversation. Yeah. So, but it's presented on telly like it's a very organic, like, oh, we're just having a conversation. Tell me about what this was like. And then they might not even include the bit where she asked the question. It might just be constructed into a conversation. Yeah. And that's how reality TV works. There are other people who are then able to try and like play that game. The later the seasons go, you start seeing the queens come in with their canned bits in the confessionals. Mm-hmm. They know how to produce their own drama. There's a season 6 is a season quite free of drama, but quite high on high art, good drag, many competitors. Like you don't know who's going to win because there are so many good queens, and it's largely thought of because they came in and they were like, we're going to play you at your own game here, and we're going to produce ourselves kind of thing, and we're going to control the narrative now. Then you also have it in the All Winners season, which is All Stars 7, where they were apparently they filmed it like they film every season of Drag Race, but then they chose in the production of it to turn it into a full celebration, and none of the queens were going to be given negative criticism. It was only positive. And then that became a different season. But they filmed it with negative critiques. Yeah. So that's, again, how do producers and how does everyone play their part in the production of this show? And that Ed Koskey example is a real good example of, we're going to tell this story. Someone, the person it happened to, the performer, is going to tell it in a very different way from someone, the company guy towing the company line, is going to tell it. Because that's fascinating.
Even like he wouldn't say John Laurinaitis.
Yes,
the head of talent relations at that time.
I had to go like, who was that? And then I remembered
it was John Laurinaitis. Yeah. They won't say Vince McMahon. It was a different creative regime at that time. They wouldn't say Vince McMahon was in charge, because it is the other thing to remember from this is like the Beckham documentary, or the
artist.
Or the
different in context now, isn't it? Like Jesus.
Or the Robbie Williams one. Yeah. They are also producers on the show. So it is...
Yeah, Lee Fitting is there.
It's not like... when we had the Sabu documentary on WrestleTalk Extra, on our WrestleTalk's Patreon, that was a documentarian approached Sabu about doing a documentary about him in the lead up to his retirement match. Like Rob Van Dam is a producer on that show because he came on and he sort of like, helped arrange a lot of these things. And they do a very warts and all story. But it's not like Sabu said, I want to do a documentary about my retirement year, and also I wanted to be presented in this way, which is what this is. This is WWE is like, we want to present it in this way where we look like this. The Beckhams, we want to be presented like this in this documentary. We want approval of the edits and things like that. I want to have approval of the edits. So you're never actually really getting a true look at something, because you're getting the subject matters, what they want the outlook to look like.
And it's always, I always say, I quite subscribe to that notion of there being 3 sides to every story. The truth is somewhere in the middle. There's one side, the other side, and the truth is in the middle somewhere. It might be leaning more towards one side than the other, but, everyone has a perspective. I actually... The bits that I enjoyed the most in this series were the ones that did feel a little bit messier. Let's be honest, the people watching WWE Unreal are unlikely to be people who are not familiar with the previous creative regime.
Yes, which is fascinating, though, because it's not made for us.
And yet, let's be honest, who's going to be watching it? Like, I haven't watched an F1 documentary. I was a childhood F1 fan. I don't really watch it in the modern era where it's become the big thing, but I don't necessarily watch them. I do watch the sort of, have watched the All or Nothings, the football documentaries, because I'm a football fan.
Yeah.
But would I necessarily watch I'd maybe watch a show about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders because they seem fabulous.
Well, that's what this is, right? This is a show like that Dallas Cowboys one, like the F1 documentary, which is very much what this is based on. I think it might even be Peyton Manning. Peyton
Manning is an exec producer, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if he did the F1 one as well, but the idea of this is to try and capture that same zeitgeist thing of this is a show designed for non-wrestling fans to get a look, to get a peek behind the curtain of how...
To understand why we watch what we watch.
Well, not even to understand what we watch, how we put a show together.
Yeah.
And like, this is how F1 gets put together. This is how the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. You might not be a fan of football at all, American football at all, but you're watching a documentary that's sort of about that, an adjacent thing to it, to get a peek into that weird world. And that's what this is designed to be as well, which is why they can say things like a previous creative regime, and you don't have to dive into what any of that means. When Brock Lesnar is on this show later on, like, revealed in the last thing, they're just like, he's not wrestled for 2 years. Why is that, Michael Hayes? We don't have to say.
There was a moment.
So we don't have to say because it's not important to the narrative of what Unreal is presenting as to why he's not wrestled for 2 years.
I checked the clock when the SummerSlam ending episode was happening because I was like, are you going to even address Brock coming back?
I thought it was just going on the scene.
Me too. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then, Unreal will return.
Yeah, in Doomsday.
yeah. It is interesting to think about the audiences and to think about what they're trying to put across. I personally found the sort of the personal bits, the bits where there was a bit of a struggle, the bits where there was a bit of a conflict, far more interesting. I really enjoyed seeing Lyra Valkyria be very honest about her match going wrong.
Yeah.
I really found it interesting to talk about the ending of Money in the Bank going wrong. I found it very interesting to see Road Dogg and Triple H have a Barney over R-Truth's hair.
Yeah, well, this series really went out of its way to make Road Dogg look like a massive idiot.
So it's your favourite bit of television of all time.
It was constant to be like, how can we make Road Dogg look stupid in this scene as well?
There's going to be a lot on the deep dive.
Which I grant you, I don't think is entirely Unreal's fault. I think there's probably a little bit of that. That is the Road Dogg Jesse James, who actually I am got a big bone to pick with as well, because when he was running down his list of names, he did not say BG James.
Did he not? Sometimes people leave names out, and I'm like, hang on, you've got me crossed there. You know what? Becky didn't say Rebecca Knox. That got on my nerves.
Yeah,
but if we're gonna do it, not because I'm not like you calling Meech Jade or whatever. I'm like, or like insisting like it's Bryan Danielson. Even if we're talking about the Daniel Bryan era,
yeah,
you love a TNA name. I'm like, I don't really care about that. But if we're going to establish that, like, here are all of the names we've gone by, you're missing some.
Yeah.
I'm a completionist.
Yeah. Interestingly, I thought no TNA footage in the show whatsoever. There was AAA footage in the show, but there was no TNA footage in there. The closest we got...
What else was there? There was another thing that...
Lucha Underground.
And that's what stuck out to me. There was Lucha Underground.
Because they talked about Chelsea versus Penta from Lucha Underground, which I was really surprised about. And I'm glad that they did.
Me too.
I mean, it sort of added nothing to the episode, but I'm glad that they did it.
This is what it was a very nice bridge between talking about two characters. But there was an awful lot of this season that I felt like, are you going to leave that there? And I wonder if they're going to pick it back up in the third installment, but it doesn't feel like it. There was a lot I was like, I'm not... The reason I didn't enjoy this series as much as I enjoyed the first one was it didn't quite scratch as much of the itch as I wanted. And there was an awful lot of stuff left on the table. The
other thing I would add to that is that it's missing a lot of through lines.
Yes, I agree.
It has got one thing. I felt
like it was going all over the place.
It's got one thing. We are running from WrestleMania 3 to SummerSlam. The show never ends. You know, it's 24/7. We got to do more stories. The show must go on. So that's cool. So we ended the last series at WrestleMania and we're going through to this year's SummerSlam. But they did a lot of stuff about Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green's not on SummerSlam.
Right. So like Chelsea Green's the main character of Unreal, though. Let's be honest. Her and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, but then there was nothing in Rhea Ripley in this series because Rhea Ripley had nothing big to do at SummerSlam. But we still had Chelsea Green be like, "Here's my big house." We had nothing on Jey Uso. Yeah, Jey Uso wins the world title at WrestleMania 40. There's no follow up to that whatsoever. Of like, so what's the fallout of him? You said in series 1, you're getting gas. We're not sure if we can really put the belt on you. You got to show yourself. Where's the follow-up to that? There's no follow-up to it. Instead, we spend half an episode celebrating Pat McAfee wrestling. We celebrate 2 episodes on Jelly Roll wrestling. So this series, Sean Ross Sapp sort of brilliantly said that this show was going to be the We're Smarter Than You series. And it does come, it's a very smug series, I felt the WWE came across so smug in
I didn't get smug.
I particularly around the Seth stuff came across very smug because it's their version of reality. But it's also, for me, it was like, I felt very smug. We are better than you, but also look how cool we are because we've got Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll wrestling for us.
I got that. I don't know that I think smug is, so this is what's going to make the conversation around that episode interesting. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk, because we'll talk about it when we talk about the episode.
You can say your point now, because I do have a point that I want to make about that episode.
Just that I have read other people say this, which makes me then think like maybe we just watched it in different ways, or maybe we come at it from different angles. I didn't get smug from them trying to do a work, because that's wrestling. I thought the Paul Heyman stuff was really funny. It was very carny. I really enjoyed it.
Paul Heyman, you talk about like how the drag race people had sort of pre-planned things to say, like within the can. Yeah, you can see who are the best media trained people within exactly WWE, and Ed Koskey knows exactly what he needs to say in those moments. Cody Rhodes knows exactly what he's not an. I don't know actually who Cody Rhodes is, because I don't believe anything I ever see on TV involving him.
Oh, I do, that's interesting about perception.
But Paul Heyman is another one. Paul Heyman didn't talk. Paul Heyman cut a promo.
Yes, he did. Yes,
and so I don't know if Paul Heyman can actually talk. I think he just cuts promos the entire time. People like, he's a great promo. So yeah, I think that's because he only ever talks exclusively in promos.
He's a performance artist.
My favorite thing I've ever heard about Cody Rhodes is Kevin Mahan said that Cody Rhodes is such a good liar because he's the son of Dusty Rhodes, who was the greatest liar in wrestling. Yeah. If it came out that Cody Rhodes was not the son of Dusty Rhodes, I would not be surprised, because it'd be such a good lie. But the only way it can be such a good lie is he is the son of Dusty Rhodes.
That's very funny. But it's like, that's the sort of consummate professional in Cody Rhodes. I believe him in most of the things he's saying, and I think that, talking about truth and talking about Cena, there was an awful lot of. I felt a lot of authenticity from the performers, especially from the people up top. I felt a lot more control, which was interesting. Smug is something that I just didn't feel. I absolutely felt the look at us, we're cool. I absolutely can see the not how the sausage is made, that's not the right phrase, but them sort of protecting themselves by, it's all well and good when you give us an Unreal saying he's getting gassed, but we're gonna, it's up to him now to get himself together. Well, we now know that didn't happen, and this was actually a conversation we were having upstairs about the job of the creative team when it comes to ultimately when you're trying to push someone to a top spot, how much of that responsibility is the creative team and how much of that responsibility is the wrestler, based on the fact that Michael Hayes said Chelsea Green's got a ceiling, and I went, you shouldn't be in that job then, because for me, if someone is of the talent of Chelsea Green and you believe that they've got it and they can make anyone, and they are so committed, and their commitment to getting themselves over, their commitment to character and understanding, and their passion for this business and their understanding of this business, and you can't then let your creative brain run off and say, okay, well, how can I push you to the top? I don't think you're doing your job properly.
Yeah.
And the other side of that coin is, if I say let's get you to the top level, but then you don't do your job properly, then we need to reconsider that, and actually maybe we do need to lower your ceiling again. And that was where Jey Uso's storyline, or absence thereof, where we all saw what happened, where he becomes the world champion, and it doesn't light the world on fire.
He's there for 7 weeks on top.
For a number of reasons, and they have to pull back from it. Where was that storyline? That's an interesting storyline in Unreal, but I suppose that one has to make them go, we don't always get it right. And then the fan perception is going to be, Jey Uso's not it, and they're telling us in Unreal that Jey Uso's not it. So how then do they heat Jey Uso up in the main show if they're going to tell us in Unreal that he's not? So that's where it's interesting, where it's like, it's not fully a behind-the-scenes documentary, is it? Because you still have to control your narratives.
Exactly, yeah, and not in the same way that Braun Strowman and EC3 try to control their narratives when they did their shows.
Is that what it was called?
Control Your Narrative was their promotion that they had, with the rant room. On like the Chelsea Green thing, I do think it was very bold of WWE to put out a documentary where they exposed that they have got a lack of depth on their SmackDown roster.
That was interesting.
And they are bad at their jobs. Like, it was wild.
That's why I'm saying I don't see it as fully polished and smug, because there are nuggets in there where I'm like, you're showing your hand.
But I don't think that they see that they are their hands. Like, if anything, Triple H comes across as there's 2 times in this show where someone goes up to Triple H and says, "I've got an idea," and Triple H is like, "Why didn't you do my idea?" And they go, "Yes, boss, that's a great idea." Like, it's like that conversation happens twice in 2 episodes. That's the sort of smug bit. Like, and then Road Dogg's like,
haven't we all had to do that at some point or another?
And then like Road Dogg's like, "We should put the belt back on Chelsea," and Triple H's like, "Why?" Because like, who's she going to face? People she's already faced already. I was like, yeah, that's the problem. That's your problem. It's like, and what's she going to face against people who are above her? Then she's just going to have to take losses, and they're not going to lose to her. I was like, well, that means you're bad at your job.
Yes.
And then it comes to Michael Hayes being like, the problem with the creative team is that they've got a lot of ideas, but they don't see the long game. Triple H sees the long game. This is the smug bit that I come across as. Like, it feels like Triple H is seen as like this all-powerful, all-knowing, never gets it wrong entity. And then you tie that into the Seth injury thing. There's a moment in this that Sean Ross Sapp, I think quite rightly has taken against, which is the perception of how it was reported on afterwards. And they use a tweet that was
invokes Fightful. I've seen that.
That was an aggregated tweet that was incorrectly aggregated.
Right.
Fightful never reported or confirmed that Seth Rollins was injured. They said there are a lot of people backstage who said it is legitimate, but they never reported he is actually. But the person who aggregated that said PW Insider, who I believe actually did report it, and Fightful are reporting. And Sean said, and I've got the tweet put out here, Elite Club SOB incorrectly aggregated us. He deleted the tweet. WWE and Netflix saved it immediately and used it. We never reported what they said, which is why there's no tweet of me saying it. That's where I think what I then find frustrating is there is a second half to the story then that is interesting. You had this big elaborate work, and you did it so well in keeping it away from people. Only a handful of people knew what was going on. You told Cody because he's the top guy, but we have to tell Seth because if Seth didn't know, or I had to tell LA Knight because if it's the other way around, then Seth, you'd be furious about it. The second half of that story then is, but it still got out. There's only so much we can control. And then you can actually tell the story of how frustrating that is, that a few people did find out and it did turn into this other thing. And we worked around it by doing this, that, and the other, and we try to control it this way. But instead, they just play it off as, nope, the dirt sheets reported it was real, and then we fooled them all. Aren't we great?
This is then another thing when it comes to the way that reality TV produces. And I'm so loath to make this a unique to Unreal thing. This is an all reality TV thing that serves their narrative far better in telling a concise narrative for an episode of television than an extra bit on top where that stuff, which I also find interesting, gets looked at. And I do think that's something that's left on the table. I think like exploring that would be interesting. I think people like mess. Why do we have big microphones in front of our faces? Why does any TikToker you watch have a tiny mic? It's to let you know that we're not polished. It's to let you know that we're a little bit, while we put a lot of effort in, no one likes to see someone put too much effort in. People don't like to see you be too polished. Yeah. So showing us when you get things wrong actually works to your advantage. That's why the Lyra Valkyria stuff really, like, I really felt for Lyra Valkyria because I've been in not literally her, I wasn't in front of 60,000 people, but I've been in her position of everything that goes wrong could go wrong. And
she comes across as raw and honest.
You want me to be real? I can't be more real than this. And I believe you 100%. And people respond to that. People like when you aren't perfect.
It's the best stuff in the series.
And I think that they could do with putting a bit more on that. The problem then becomes, as I said, if you admit a fault, like we picked Jey Uso and it was the wrong choice, that's hard to then lift Jey Uso back up. It's not impossible. Nothing is ever impossible.
Yeah.
But it is shooting yourself in the foot. And that then begs the question, so what are you looking to achieve? And if what you're looking to achieve is a little bit of intrigue and a nice DVD extra to put on while you're having your toast, you've done that very well.
Yeah, because it then raised the question of like, well, what's the point of this show then? Like, is this show just pointless if you're never looking at any of your own flaws? Case in point, we talked about how like there's few through lines through this. Like the Seth one is probably the most through line that they have. Yeah. But they conclude that right at the start of the last episode because that happened on night 1. And then it's Lyra Valkyria and they conclude that in the middle of the episode. Then the last part of the episode is dedicated to Cena's heel turn and like Cena versus Cody. And it's the first time they've mentioned it.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's the first time they've mentioned it is because you can't say the heel turn didn't work. You can't go into detail across episodes about how fans are rejecting this. It's not working. So you just concise that down into one Cody Rhodes thing where it's like, John's too much of a babyface. And the fans aren't ever going to boo him. Plus, I had to go film Street Fighter, so we had to do this promo segment where he said, I'm a babyface. No. Like, A, you shot Street Fighter after SummerSlam anyway, so that's BS. B...
Well, I'm going to push back on you a little bit, because what they actually said and that was, how do we do this babyface turn? We'll have him shake his hand. I think what it sounded like to me was Triple H's or someone's intention was Cena turns babyface at the end of the SummerSlam match, and then that is affirmed in the way he interacts with Cody going forward. That was what they seemed to say to me. So then when it's like, well, Cody's not going to be here, so we can't do that, so we have to do it now.
Cody tanks with Cena shortly after SummerSlam.
Right.
So he was there.
I don't remember. I was busy.
Yeah. So like he tagged with him in September.
Okay.
So like it wasn't like it was also you've only got a few dates with Cena after this anyway, so it wasn't like I had a ton of TV time. I think it's a real BS excuse of what they did. For me, I think the reason why they did the turn on SmackDown the way they did it is because Brock Lesnar was coming back.
Right.
And so because you need Brock Lesnar to be the heel in the feud, turn him babyface now, then he can be attacked by Brock Lesnar, and that sets up the WrestlePalooza match. I think it was more of a means to an end as opposed to it being like this well thought out thing. But also you can't, like, if anything, that exposes you for being a lack of creative. Oh, and are you going to tell me as well that a film randomly told Cody Rhodes you got to come and shoot this movie? Yeah. No. You would have known those dates were coming up because movies don't get made that way where someone just be like, actually, we're going to shoot it next week. Are you free? Are you free? Because actually, I've spoken to some of the other cast members and they can do next week.
I don't know. There was a guy in the coffee shop I was just to get my flat white who had an awful lot to say about the film productions that he's been on. I was eavesdropping. It was like... I don't believe you. I think all we're just saying, bro.
Yeah, and in all fairness, in the defense of Cody Rhodes and the defense of WWE, this Street Fighter movie looks like it was made for about £5. So there is those costumes, mate. Honestly, that film looks dog-ass. It looks dreadful in the best way possible. Like there's a reason why we don't sometimes go too faithful of an adaptation because it looks like crap.
That Cody wig is not the one.
Oh my! Everyone looks horrendous in that. No one looks good in that movie because it was made for a packet of peanuts. Anyway, so I think that there's a missed opportunity
your point is,
because you can't say we did a bad. You can't say that we did this thing and it did not work. In the first series, we had the big heel turn. And it was this epic thing. We set up this thing, but if then the follow-up's not epic, then you can't focus 4 episodes on that.
And this is where I'm like, well, I think you can.
I think you should.
That's it. I think you can.
If you wanted to make an actual real documentary, you would.
No, you don't even have to make an actual real documentary. You can still PR it. You can still control the narrative and say we didn't work, but we were able to pivot. Like you can spin it's not working in such a way that makes you look brilliant if you want to, because it's controlled reality TV and you choose the narrative. It doesn't have to be a Gorilla Gonzo documentary, like to have it be a good insight and to be something that can ultimately end up doing them good. As I said, we as people like a little bit of humility and a little bit of, it didn't work. I think one of my things is always like, I respect you for giving it a go even if it doesn't work. I will never criticize or judge you harshly for taking a punt on something and it not working. Jey Uso is world champion. I don't criticize you for trying that. In fact, you should have. You should over as like Rover.
When we did our best catchphrases, I was like, Yeet is on my top 10 list of catchphrases. It won him a world title.
Yeah, it's like even in the first season of Unreal when they do the bit about Chelsea Green winning the Royal Rumble, and coming in number 30. There's one wrestler in the entire company where that storyline could work, and it's Chelsea Green. And you could argue you'd never do that with a men's rumble. I'd never do that with anyone other than Chelsea Green. It would just make a mockery of the whole thing. Well, not if you follow it up. Ask the question. Your job as a creative person is to ask the question.
The show's made up.
Yes, it's all made up.
You can do whatever.
We're in control of the narrative.
You can do whatever you want.
Try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you tried it. I will never judge you for trying something. And I think that's most people's response, right? Is you gave it a go and it didn't work, but at least you gave it a go and you can hold your hands up and say that it didn't work. And I think you can tell that in a controlled Unreal environment. and still make yourself look good.
Yeah, because like
that's where it's left on the table.
Well, the Chelsea Green one, which I think they have sort of like omitted or don't realize how foolish they have made themselves look, is that Chelsea does that her thing, which is like, I thought it was a bit early to win the title reign. I thought, I'm not upset about it because it's fake. It's not real. It's not
that from her.
Yeah, it's not real. Like, it's a fake title belt in a fake wrestling match and a fake loss. I'm there looking up at the lights. That's not the issue. But I just thought that there was more story that we can tell. And then the creative room, where Triple H be like, well, we've tried nothing. We're all out of ideas.
Yeah.
Put the belt on Zelina Vega. And then when you get Zelina Vega, it's like, well, we tried nothing. We're all out of ideas. Put it on Julia.
Yeah.
And then we tried nothing. We're all out of ideas. Just put it back on Chelsea.
Yeah.
Like, it exposes them a little bit, but I don't think that it sees them. If anything, Triple H watched that and be like, well, Road Dogg looks stupid, so we could put that one out.
Yeah. Rather than it looking like we've tried everything and failed, it looks like Road Dogg can't do his job, which is, that's not my place to say. It's yours.
Speaking of which, you mentioned that Rhea Ripley and Chelsea Green were the main characters. I disagree. Chris Parks is the main character, and he finally makes his return in the third episode in the most beautiful way possible.
Can I say this before you go in there? Chris Park gave me you energy over the course of this show.
I love him so much. Also, my other question, is this show sponsored by Sour Patch Kids?
I know, because in a couple of episodes they had gummy bears. And can I say also, we do that in the backstage. Sour sweets get you saliva, so most West End performers will have them in their dressing room. So like, run off stage, pop in a thing, and go back out. But
Chris, his introduction to this series, or his reintroduction to this series, is him telling Bruce Pritchard all the plans that he's got, and Bruce Pritchard has this look on his face, was like, "Please stop talking to me. I cannot stand being around you." And me and Ned and Sakira watching this together, I was like, "Oh, the show's going out of its way to make Chris Park look like a doofus. The show's back."
The thing is, I don't think it's necessarily going out of his way. I think this is one of those rare examples where they're using the footage he gave them. Do you know what I mean?
Because he's the lovable idiot.
Exactly.
There should be way more about him. They should just make a documentary about him working in WWE.
When I talk about the humility and the honesty, this was a really nice moment where like he's sorry that the ending of the match went wrong, and he goes over to Triple H, and Triple H goes, "Hear this. It's not your fault.
It's LA Knight's fault. We all know it's LA Knight's fault."
It is. I mean, oh my God, that bit where like, if I was LA Knight and Triple H is beat by beat walking through what the ending of the match should have been, and I know I fucked it, I literally would have wanted the ground to swallow me whole.
In all fairness to LA Knight, though, I will go to back for him, better on what we saw as well. Chris Park walks up to Triple H and be like, "Here's how we're going to win the match." Triple H was like, "Actually, I've got a better idea." Chris Park says, "Yeah, okay, great, boss, we'll do that one." But Triple H's better idea is like, "And the effing guy goes here, and the effing does this, and the effing goes down there," and they're like, "Oh no," and they're like, "Oh this," and then you grab it, and they're like, "Oh, F down," and you got it, and he comes out, "Yep,
sure,
absolutely, sure, got everything you just said." Of course, LA Knight.
Say yes now and figure it out later. That's how you do it. But no, I thought that was a genuine like human moment from both of them.
Yeah.
Like, it was really nice to see that interaction and to see him sort of be like, "Hear this," because haven't we all been that person? It's again a humanity. Well, Chris Parks is a human.
We're again saying
he's not a monster abyss.
The show is at its best when they are showing flaws.
This is Corporate Kane. I just realized. Chris Park is Corporate Kane, but in real life.
Yeah, he's wearing trousers now.
Yeah.
The show is at its best when it's showing flaws.
Yeah.
When it is showing how not everything goes right, how you have got this sheen across everything. And even though fans thought, and actually I remember thinking that the ending to Money in the Bank did fall a little bit flat. But like, showing us then what was supposed to have happened. Like, that to me is when the show is at its most interesting, and it does feel a bit more real, a bit more vulnerable. But those moments happen so few across 5 episodes. Like, there's probably 1 or 2 moments. It's that one and Lyra Valkyria. And the other thing then is like, there's other questions you have. Like Becky, in the first episode about Becky making her return, but they just palm off Bayley.
Well, this is, and I'm like, are you going to bring this up? And then they do, but not for ages.
Not for ages. Like, it's in episode 5, there was like, "Oh yeah, we took Bayley out of the WrestleMania match." Where's that?
Becky didn't want to.
Where's that story? A, in episode 1, and B, where's the follow-up to that?
That's where it feels ping-pongy.
To build, like, it does feel a bit ping-pongy. And yeah, like, it's the Cena-Cody thing ending off the series, but being largely ignored. Cena's title run is actually just, it's the backdrop to our truth. And actually, it's the backdrop to our truth. It's the backdrop to our truth in the Saturday Night's main event and the Money in the Bank main events. It's got absolutely nothing to do with Cody, nothing to do with Cena, all to do with truth.
And it's interesting it makes me feel like they didn't know they were doing the series, because if they planned it properly,
but they did.
Well, like, as in, like, they were like, oh my god, we're making another one. Okay, quick, we'll put it together, because there's actually that Bailey thing could be seeded in episode 1, and then you bring it back in episode like 5 or whatever. You could have those conversations with Bailey more with that. I think there's an awful lot of stuff left on the table, and that's why it doesn't feel like I've eaten a full meal. Also, the contrast to all of the things that feel a bit real and a bit raw that we all like are the things that made me feel like the most like I'm eating empty calories here, is when I have the secret conversations that are on camera. We had it to a degree with, like, I want to put a rocket up your ass to Jey Uso. I didn't mind them in season 1, but I think because, and there were 2 in particular, Triple H pulling Cody to one side to be like, because you're our guy. Yeah. There are so few people clued in this, but I'm telling you this.
The amount of people who said, like, only a few people know this, and they're just telling everyone.
I'm just telling everybody, but also I want to see the watertight NDAs that the sound crew of Unreal must have had, because it's like the only people who know this right now are you, me, and the 6 people working for Unreal over it. Yeah. If you look over there, you can see them. Like, they all know.
And Miss Joy.
Miss Joy, by the way. Like, I stand Miss Joy.
Where was her talking head?
I absolutely cackled through that story. Rue Lopez is among... Like, she's in my Mount Montreux of wrestling. I love her. It's great. A bit of being like, don't tell anyone I got a fake boo-boo. I told someone, it's Miss Joy, what are you going to do
What are you going to do about it?
You fucking legend. You absolute legend.
Awesome.
They're going to be a tag team by the... Like, if they're not winning at WrestleMania, like, 62, Rue and Miss Joy. Come on. That's gotta be Miss Joy!
Yeah. Although Rue was wearing a Miss Rachel t-shirt, so she is basic.
Well...
Come on now. Like, Miss Rachel's fine and all, but there are way better shows to get into, kid.
Stand Miss Rachel. I don't even I have kids, nor do I know what she does, but she seems like she's got a head screwed on when it comes to the world at large.
She is a businesswoman, so and she has got a smart... Miss Rachel, because there are some people who dislike Miss Rachel for some of her politics and stuff, but I look at her just for her business side of things. She sold Netflix her YouTube show. She didn't have to make any new episodes of anything. She sold things that were already made for a load of money.
You rake it in. Love. Good for you. But the other conversation was in Seth's bus, and maybe it's because the episode started with Paul Heyman's promo, but there's a bit where Heyman, it sounded like I was listening to a conversation where they were just reading the script that they'd written for each other rather than a genuine conversation. It sounded like two people plotting the cash in rather than them talking through the plans for the cash-in.
That's exactly it. I really do get the impression that the Seth injury angle was Unreal first, WWE second.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we orchestrate a storyline that'll work really well for an episode of Unreal that will then play out on WWE television?
And that's empty calories.
As opposed to, we've got a really good idea for an angle, and then it's captured on camera by WWE Unreal and then becomes an episode.
Yeah.
That's where it's almost the snake is eating itself a little bit. And there's also why then you can't go into the second half of that story, which is, it got out. And, the day it happened, post-wrestling, John Pollock's being like, oh no, this was a plan since Thursday. And Dave Meltzer was like, yeah, no, this was told to me as well. Which no one, by the way, no one will ever give them credit for. No one will ever give them the credit for. They actually called this ahead of time. And then it was a couple of days later when I was like, oh yeah, it turns out it was a work. Notice how there were loads of streamer reactions to R-Truth coming back, but there were no streamer reactions on screen to Seth Rollins. It's because every streamer's reaction was, oh yeah, it's a work. Just like we all knew it was.
And there is an interesting conversation to be had around how much that pisses me off that we can't just, that's where I stop being a context person and I start being a performer, and that's fucking infuriating to me.
Yeah,
we're gonna try this thing, and instantly there are going to be people who are trying to expose the thing. Yeah. That fucks me off.
It's not Meltzer and Pollock. It's whoever.
It's
whoever stooged them off.
It fucks me off with everybody. It fucks me off that ecosystem exists, that there are people who know that.
The swear count is high on this episode.
Sorry, I am a bit naughty with that because it's like, I know kayfabe is dead and all the rest of it, and I see that, but like I don't want. We're watching the traitors. I don't want to know how tonight's episode goes, but I could if there was an ecosystem of people guys, on my radio show, I'm going to tell you who goes from the traitors tonight. Anything interesting, we can talk about the plan. They're like, I don't want to know. I want to watch the episode.
Well, I think the difference with there is that the people who work on the traitors are so good at not telling people things because they believe in the show and they want to see it. Like,
which is not me saying there's no need for a Meltzer. There's no need for a reporting. Obviously, we all like to, but there's a certain thing where I'm like, they're going to try a big storyline. Don't spoil it for me the day it happens. And who is it that's giving you that information? Probably one of the 26,000 people you told.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, because it kept feeling like we're only telling a handful of people. Yeah. Then there's like 12 shots of them telling 5 people at once.
So it's an inelegant thing for me to use as an example of frustration. It's a frustration I have, but that because of the unreal first of it all.
It is a frustration that a lot of people have. And I'd imagine that, top brass and WWE have, is that stories keep getting out because they keep leaking it. Like WWE is a very leaky ship. But then you've got the temerity of Paul Heyman to be like, people stooge off like, yeah, you did that. Like in the 1990s, are you telling me you weren't feeding Meltzer information about ECW? Of course you were, Paul Heyman. You know how the game works. But ultimately, this show is. And it's really interesting that one of the big show-long stories is the work. The whole show's a work.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a work. And as a work, I'm trying to think if there's any other notes. Oh, yeah, okay. I guess the third season, when Unreal will return, Avengers Doomsday, will be based around Cena's last dates.
Yeah.
Because it ended up with Brock attacking him, and it's like, there's 12 dates left.
Cycle never stops.
That will be the next 5 episodes. Will be Cena's run through to Saturday night's main event. Also, got to shout out Cody Rhodes' Han Solo yoga mat that he's got of Han Solo and Carbonite. What a dork!
Yeah,
love that about him. But actually, can I also talk about as well? Like one of the other things I find interesting about this show is the whiteboard.
Love the
and
whiteboard.
When they've got like matches written out. Do you see the SummerSlam matches?
I always see the whiteboard, but I forget to pause it and forensically look at it.
So one of them was Trish Stratus versus TBC.
Yeah.
Which was a Fightful Select report, actually, that she was going to do more matches at some point. Roman Reigns versus Braun Breaker. Seth Rollins versus Sami Zayn, Rhea Ripley versus Asuka, Jey Uso versus Rusev, Demon Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio, Bayley versus Becky for the Intercontinental Championship, and the Bella Twins versus the Judgment Day.
So they put it all in the bin, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, every single one of those could pretty much go. I mean, Roman and Braun gets turned into the tag match, which then takes Jey out of that. Rusev, I don't think, does anything at SummerSlam. Sami faces Karrion
That sounds
Kross.
like more matches that were on SummerSlam.
Yeah,
I mean, more matches than ended up on the card.
Yeah, well, it was 2 nights. Because that was the other, when I was thinking about the SummerSlam matches that they could have focused on. Can't do Karrion Kross, because he's gone, and he was going, so you can't do the Sami Zayn thing there. Can't really do anything around like Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Like you could have done, but there's like not a huge amount to dive into.
I think they could, because that was a really interesting thing about Charlotte Flair in the last episode. Was talking about setting up Tiffany Stratton as the new future. And there was a real twinge of actually, am I not the future anymore? And she had a rough year that led to this tag division. And
you could have dived into the negative reaction that she was getting and how they've spun it into a positive of now people really liking her. And the turnaround that Charlotte Flair had in 2025, I think should be studied. And but they did, and it came out that they purposefully filmed superstars being happy that Charlotte Flair was back. Like they got all of the women's locker room together to all jump and go, yay! So they could put that into the Unreal episode to spin the narrative that Charlotte Flair is back, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. They did it again with Naomi. Well, I don't know if I think
that one.
I can't. This is okay. Maybe I'm drawing it to a close, and maybe this is a flaw in my part, and I do accept that there are going to be some people who think I'm a twat because of it. I can't live in a world so cynical to believe that people being happy for people is only for the camera. I can't. I can't live in the world that's so cynical, that all of this is fake.
Yeah, so I know that. So to add on that, the report was they were happy to do it because they were happy to see it, but it was a staged shot.
Yeah, but I think there's this is where in all of it, I'm not even that specific shot. I mean all of it. I can't live in a world so cynical to not be able to take Cody Rhodes, some of what he says at face value, to live in a world that Paul Heyman doesn't believe with full throat what he's saying in that moment, to believe that when Naomi is saying I don't really want to talk about this too much, that's not genuinely something that's quite painful for her.
Well, it's case by case.
Yeah,
I believe it when Naomi says it, but when Paul Heyman's just cutting a promo, I'm like, well, you're cutting a promo.
Yeah,
and it's a really good promo. It's a really eloquent one. And Cody, I think he's too savvy. I think he's too smart. That I think he knows what to say in those moments. Where the point was like, I don't actually know who the real you is, which I admire about him. Actually, if anything, I think he's very good at what he does. How long have we gone? Oh man, 50 minutes on that show. We're still going to do the episode by episode breakdown. I am going to not steal because that's a strong thing, but I am going to almost repeat what Larson's review of this was on Stephen Larson. Great review. I'd highly recommend everyone go and check out Going In Raw. Larson made the point of, and I'm going to apologize to prequels fans if that's what you grew up watching, but he said Unreal is the prequel Star Wars movie. I went to go see The Phantom Menace and they came out of being like, no, that was interesting, because it was new and it was a novelty and it was nice that we got to see this new look. But then you go see Attack of the Clones, you're like, oh no, I think these are just bad, and I'm not into these. I'm not to that degree. I think that this show is fine. I think it is a broadly fine show.
I think it is a DVD extra, and I thoroughly enjoy watching DVD extras, so I will happily watch the next series of this show. This season felt like empty calories in a way that the last one didn't.
I completely agree. Particularly in that last episode, I was looking at my watch. I was like, why are we... No, man, is this episode not finished yet? I got really bored in the last episode. That might be because I was desperate to go home.
Not a Jelly Roll fan.
Jelly Roll seemed like a nice chap.
He does.
He does seem like a nice chap.
And I didn't really appreciate him. I told Luke this. This is the final thing. I told Luke this on the way down. Yesterday I got home. We didn't have any water in West London. There was a pipe broke somewhere, so a lot of our houses didn't have water. So I was like, should we just order a pizza? So I ordered this big, filthy pizza, and I ate every scrap of it.
I really want pizza now.
And it was delicious. It was so good. And then I felt guilty immediately afterwards because it was one of those things where I was like, I didn't need to eat. I could have saved some of that for lunch tomorrow, whatever. Didn't. And then Jelly Roll starts losing like 400 pounds. And I was like, oh, Jelly Roll, you're making me feel bad about my belly.
Let down Jelly Roll.
Yeah.
Grammy award-winning artist Jelly Roll. But yeah, if you want to hear us do a full episode by episode, if you thought 50 minutes was not enough chat about Unreal and you want like another hour or so as we go...
The comments seem to want us to go today.
We do more of that over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Head over there now. There's a link in the video description. Go check out our full episode by episode breakdown of Unreal, where I'm going to mostly talk about how Chris Park is the best and how this show it cannot make him look bad, even though it keeps trying. Although, like last week, I enjoyed this episode. There's some really good wrestling on this show. You can feel that they're not building to a pay-per-view at the moment.
Yes.
Like there's not a pay-per-view until March.
This episode was a very entertaining episode of television with very little to write home about. Do you know what I mean?
I completely agree. Yeah. Because we're not building to a pay-per-view. So what we're doing is big matches on TV. But when you do big matches on TV, that's sort of like a 2-week build or something. Yeah. You know, like with FTR and Doyle and Davis, like that's happening on next week's show. So we did the setup for it last week. FTR win a match here. Doyle and Davis will win a match on Collision. Then we'll have that time match next week. Tekla attack. They beat Chris Statlander in the 6-woman tag, and then here they lay out the challenge. Then there's the match next week. So it is very nice and episodic. Yeah, but it is not. And it'll be very good TV.
Not appointment television.
But it's not appointment television. Like next week does feel like because there's 2 title matches on it.
Yeah.
But also those title matches will end and then we'll just move on to what happens next week after that. So you're right. Like it is good television with not a lot to write home about. But having said that, like, you know, Josh Alexander versus Kenny Omega was an awesome match.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the 6-man street fights.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
the main event was great.
Premier League action where like I watched a really great football match this week between 2 teams that I don't have a personal connection to, so for a neutral it was really entertaining. Whereas like this past weekend, you know, Man United have just appointed Michael Carrick. It's the Manchester derby, and then suddenly they wake up and become Man United from 1999 again and win 2-0, and it's incredible. And they should have won 7-0, like if it weren't for dodgy offside calls and all the rest of it. But and Donnarumma suddenly deciding to prove that he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. But like that was appointment television. The other matches that I just enjoyed as a neutral were like pleasant to watch. Yeah, this was more on that side, and I do think just because we're not building to a pay-per-view doesn't mean you can't do non-pay-per-view stories.
Of course, yeah.
That start and resolve on your weekly television to make it appointment television.
Yeah,
I don't feel that the title matches like next week, for instance, are enough of an incentive to feel like appointment television.
And that's because, for me, they're not doing hot angles.
Yes.
They are just doing very simple, I won a match, I laid out a challenge, and we're having the match next week.
Mm-hmm.
We won a match, we laid out the challenge, we're having a match next week.
Which is reinvent the wheel.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Like, that is, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's nice, simple, episodic storytelling. I don't mind it whatsoever. But if you're not doing anything big elsewhere on the card, which is why next week, although there are 2 title matches on there, with 2 title matches I'm very much looking forward to, it doesn't feel like event television because there's no real meat and depth to this storyline between FTR and Doyle and Davis. There's no meat to Tekla versus Chris Statlander. There was no meat to MJF versus Bandito. Great matches they will be, and they were with MJF and Bandito, but there's no like hotness to them the way that you often do when you're building to a pay-per-view, because you do your big hot angles to make people want to buy the pay-per-view.
Am I going to sit down and watch the show, or am I going to wait and see if the match lived up to the hype and then watch the match afterwards? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, how do you encourage it? Like, because like the stuff between Tekla and Chris, the promos they cut, real good. If I find out they had a real good match, I'll probably then go and watch the match.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, oh, I have to watch that next week.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
The show opened with MJF. Tony Schiavone brought him out for an interview where he then got to play mic stand while MJF cut a promo saying, I'm the best. Change the channel if anyone else tells you they're the best, because they're not. I'm the best. Bandito was just the first in a line of losers. This brings out Brody King. And Tony just hands MJF the mic. Like, that's luck.
On your own. Yeah.
And MJF's selling of Brody King being in the ring was so wonderful. This is where Max is great. And he's just got this like real, I'm trying not to show you that I'm afraid, but you can see that I am afraid of you. And Brody's like, I saw what you did to Mandy last week, and all it made me want to do was push my hand straight through your chest and rip out your spine. Yeah. And I thought about doing that, but I'm not going to do that. And MJF literally goes, like, breathes a sigh of relief. And he's like, no, what I want is a match, because that's going to, I want that world title off your shoulder. And Max is like, I'm going to think about it. No, we're not going to have this match. And it's not because I'm scared. Not because I'm scared of you, Brody King. It's because you're all bark and no bites. Because sure, you've like beaten some jobbers, you've beaten some jabronis. When you've beaten some elite level talent, then we can talk. Which I feel like is a little, that maybe is a hint towards we're going to get a Brody King, Kenny Omega match down the line. I know, like maybe a number 1 contenders match. If the first pay-per-view match back is going to be Kenny, MJF versus Kenny, then we can build to Kenny versus Brody King. That's your number 1 contenders match.
I really like this for setting out your stall and saying, here's a potential future contestant for this championship. As long as you then follow it through.
Absolutely.
Like, we talked about it on the Raw review with Finn Balor, where it was just like he came out, asked for a title shot and got one kind of thing, and it's only because Punk is a fighting champion rather than because he actually earned it kind of thing. And then the 2-week storyline where they kind of were like, I want this, hometown and Ireland, and then the match quality of that Balor Punk match was able to hook me into believing that Finn Balor is going to become world champion by the end of the year.
Yeah.
If you're going to set up Brody King, I quite like it, because it would be a bit like, well, what have you done to earn this title shot? Sure, you want one. Well, so does my Aunt Linda. Like, you know, what do you want? I like that him being like, come back when you've done something, because I fully believe that Brody King can, and I fully believe that Brody King will, and I like the idea of watching him boss about a bit, take on some elite level talent, and earn a shot. It's
also what I constantly ask for with Monday Night Raw in particular is, if you are going to set people up as contenders for the titles, make me believe that there's a chance they can win the belts then. Like with Finn Balor, it was like you just did one promo. Like it's not enough.
And a large portion of that rested on us on member berries, like way back when.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then in the match itself, Punk and Balor being so great that they can do near falls where maybe there is a chance.
And I'm a mug, so I eat those berries. Whereas like this, what I like about this, and I also don't necessarily love the idea of just like, show me this, show don't tell. But by telling, in this scenario, you've now given me something to show. So like by saying, go do this, I'm now watching for Brody King to do this.
Exactly.
Whereas in the past, I might have just been watching Brody King win some matches and not really thought about it.
Doing a backstage when it was like, I'm going to win the title.
Yeah, sure, you and everyone else. But by saying, you haven't earned this, go off and do it, and then we'll talk. And even Max being like, because I don't think you will, is enough for me now to buy into a Brody King quest.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's really effective.
Backstage, Jet Speed and Hangman Adam Page, your new trios championships. Mike Bailey suggested that they call their team Horsecock.
Okay.
And
then what happens? What you encouraging the crowd to chant? Lowest common denominator. not like my WWE.
The bastions of highbrow art, World Wrestling Entertainment. Samoa Joe then took on Speedball Mike Bailey, which featured like Walter level chop on the outside.
What did Mike Bailey do? Like, that's,
It was one of those gunshot chops.
Yeah.
Oh, it was incredible. Absolutely. Like, the crowd exploded for it. I enjoyed this match because Speedball making his comeback was great. Joe's awesome. But I very frustrated with this match. Shibata and Hook come down to...
Too much interference?
So, like, if you did one bit of interference and one bit of distraction, that's one thing. It was constant throughout. Yeah. Anytime Bailey started to make a comeback, he would get cut off by Hook and Shibata. One of them would cause distraction, the other one would cause interference. There's a bit when Shibata did this amazing bit of interference where he suplexed Mike Bailey onto the ring and transitioned to that, just instantly just rolled off and suplexed him on the floor. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was great.
Awesome, great, wicked spot. But it was like the fifth bit of interference and distraction you'd done in the match. Where are Hangman Adam Page?
Yeah.
Where's Kevin Knight to come down and run them off or neutralize this interference? So Bailey just gets chumpatized and gets beaten. This did nothing for Samoa Joe, did nothing for Bailey, did nothing for the Trio Championships, and did nothing for Page and Jet Speed being the tag champs. I just felt this was a really disappointing thing. And even if, and maybe I missed this, that Hangman Page and Kevin Knight backstage were like, but we're not going to come out and back you up because you really go out there and do it on your own. Like, I don't recall them doing that. Or like, oh, well, Kevin Knight had a match later on. Marina Shafir was involved in the six-man tag, and she came out later on.
Yeah.
I didn't like this much.
No, I think that, as you say, the comebacks and Speedball showing what he's got, and it's not just about being athletic. I love me lucha libre and I love me high flying and things like that, a little bit of gymnastics here and there, but I love it when it's followed up with like a great strike, a good a move that feels like the impact ultimately is devastating and things like that. And I think Speedball was doing that brilliantly. The comeback was fantastic. But when you've got Hook and Shibata playing whack-a-mole, like popping up and down on the hard cam side all the time, it's not just distracting for the wrestler. It was distracting for me. It looked messy. It looked ill thought out, like they were ill-timed. And ultimately,
just too much.
One bit of interference at the end for Joe to hit the muscle buster, and you've done the job.
You've accomplished the exact same thing.
Far too much was going on. You've accomplished the exact same thing by making it much less. I think...
And it wouldn't have then been like, where are Page and Knight? Because they interfered right at the end, right at the finish.
End. And like, ultimately, you don't give me a match that is less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think this was a misstep because it was just far too much interference. Like, action between those two was great. I love that Shibata spot. I love the chop, but the interference and distraction was too much. The Death Riders there of Moxley, Garcia, and Yuta then took on the Don Callis family of Hechicero, Rocky Romero, and Lance Archer, the Don Callis B team, if you will, in a six-man street fight, and I loved this. I adored this. I loved everything about this. Who would have thought the babyface Death Riders would be so awesome? Not this guy right here. Who would have thought that the Death Riders are actually so good at babyfaces? They can have interference on the numbers game advantage and make it feel like a babyface spot. It was when Claudio and Pac came out to run off Lance Archer.
Sick, yeah.
The crowd
Claudio coming out the dark.
Like the crowd went nuclear for it. Like, they are incredible. Marina Shafir.
Did you say nuclear?
Nuclear.
Okay, for a second I thought you George Bushed it. That's a bit... roll the tapes.
I really, really enjoyed this. Lance Archer was awesome. Like, this unstoppable monster, just choke slamming Yuta, and that gave them the numbers advantage while they were beating down Garcia and Moxley. Moxley made the comeback. The barbed wire board with glass on it being put through the table. I loved this. I had a really, really fun time.
I think the babyface Death Riders versus the heel Death Riders is a fascinating conversation to have, because I think maybe it was in the dourness of them. Maybe it was in the sort of like, it's not real, lads, and you're trying to make me think you're the hardest people in the world. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was in the self-seriousness of it all. I don't know.
There was a little bit of like, what what actually is your mission statement?
Yeah, and it's like, are you party poopers? Like, is that ultimately you're there just to ruin everyone's good time, or do you have something bigger in mind? And it wasn't fun. Like, it wasn't like a group of hard ass baddies that's fun to hate.
No,
it just was, and
they became every heel faction.
Yeah, but what makes you different is that you come out from somewhere in the depths of the arena, like big whoop, like you've been doing that the whole time. There's something, but there's enough goodwill and talent within this group that it was fascinating that it never connected. Not only that it didn't connect, that it dragged everything down.
It only connected when Hangman Page got involved,
right?
And then, like, at the end of Moxley's title run, was awesome.
And how much of the cheer was for the quality of the end, and how much of it was for relief that it was finished? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then it was post that was when the Death Riders got interested.
Yeah,
because then it's the 6-month story of Moxley's babyface turn.
Yeah.
And that was like the best stuff. I actually think of some of the best stuff that AEW did in all of last year. And now we're getting into the second half of this, where now we're going into 2026, where they're a babyface unit.
Yeah.
Marina Shafir, like, reversing the Lance Archer chokeslam into the triangle hold. This crowd were going so nuts for it. Which actually then, where I found it quite frustrating that she came out later on to align herself with Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford.
Yeah, because and that speaks to a sort of lack of the same thing you're talking about, washing mission statement. What are you doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Right. What is our plan here? So I hope that they've got one, because there's clearly something in babyface Death Riders.
Yeah.
People like badasses.
I feel like there is a plan in place because they did such a good slow build of this through the C2.
Yeah.
Like, this has been such a good slow build since basically October to get us to this point here, that it kind of just been like, well, we'll get to this point and then we'll figure it out. I think there is, and I'm so into the idea of Don Callis family versus the Death Riders, and there's a lot of meat to be had within that.
Yeah.
But if I can have some quibbles with it, I wouldn't align Marina Shafir then with Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford later. It muddies the waters.
Situational face and heel turns should not happen on the same episode.
100%, yeah. Triangle of Madness got a promo backstage. Tekla, brilliantly was like, I'm going to give you 1 week to get your affairs in order and say your goodbyes, because I'm going to take the title off you next week. And Julia Hart challenged Willow for the TBS title. Tekla
and Sky Blue said, yeah.
I've said it so many times on this show. Tekla is awesome. The Sisters of Sin make her a bit lame. Yeah. Like, I think Tekla is so cool. But the Sisters of Sin, man. Sisters of Get in the bin. FTR then took on Alex Price and Jordan Oliver, who are new signees to AEW. This is one of those really fun squash matches, which is where the people who are getting squashed get some offense in and get some fun near falls, but the people who are squashing them never look like they're ever going to take a loss.
Yeah.
But because they're heels as well, you have that moment where they're like, whoa, did I kick out in time? And then they won. Never in trouble. Won very easily. Love this.
Yeah, very nice. Just as I have no real notes on this, because it just was.
It was. And it builds to the tag match next week, which I'm sure is going to be really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
Chris and the Babes cut a promo backstage. So the world title match is made official for next week between Chris Statlander and Tekla, and Julia Hart versus Willow will be taking place on Collision, which I think they might have already taped. It was supposed to be live, but then there's been bad weather, so they had to cancel that taping and do it here in Orlando. Did you see who was on the dark match?
Oh, Baron Corbin.
Yeah, I'm presuming because he was in the air. Like, he lives in Orlando. So I'd imagine, like, it's getting local talent.
Have a go.
So he got there.
Pop a crowd a little bit.
And he's doing the Ring of Honor Maple Leaf show.
Yeah, cool.
The crossover show in March.
Love people getting jobs.
And apparently got a really good reaction from the crowd.
Good. It was really onto something in NXT. And I don't know why they didn't just follow it through.
Kenny Omega took on Josh Alexander. Man, you want to talk about like superstar reactions for people.
Oh, that Kenny Pop.
Kenny Pop. He comes out, he's like on a completely other level from a lot of
and he looks good.
He looks great.
Yeah.
And he was awesome in this match. Josh Alexander was awesome in this match. I loved this match. If I can have my one negative about it, I don't think it needed the exposed concrete stuff on the outside.
It didn't land that.
It didn't,
in every sense of the word, didn't land.
Added nothing to the match. Everything else added to the match, added to the drama. Kenny chasing Don off, Josh targeting the diverticulitis, targeting the knee. All of that actually elevated the match and added something to it. The concrete added zero to it, apart from doing a big spot. But outside of that, I thought this was a great match, and it looked awesome.
I think this show needed it a little bit, because while, again, nothing was bad to this point, other than the too much interference, I was still enjoying what was going on in this People Joe match, except for that. At this point during the course of the show, I had arrived at knowing that this wasn't event television, and I was just a bit like, just watching without feeling.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be pulled back in a little bit.
Yeah.
By that, I mean, that entrance alone,
He makes you just like sit up and pay attention.
Yeah.
Because he's got superstar aura.
Yeah.
Like he is a star. I really enjoyed this. Did the end? Did they lose the hard camera? Because like so much was just being filmed by like the floor camera in one shot.
Yeah.
It had this like real frenetic, like mad, chaotic energy to it. But I'm watching being like, where's your hard cam?
Where's your hard cam?
And then they cut to the hard cam for the One Winged Angel. I was like, oh,
we got it back.
Yeah. That's what I felt like. I felt like this is either a choice or you just lost the hard cam for a bit. Don't go to the hard cam. We haven't got it.
I think it's probably that one.
Knowing AEW, it would be the latter one. Kenny cut a promo afterwards saying he hasn't felt this good in years. Targeted Don Callis and he said, go away and lick your wounds. Send your guys after I've won the title.
Love a little gauntlet for Kenny's got line them up one after the other.
Taz had a technical look at the submissions of MJF. You can tell he's back.
I skipped it. Sorry.
It's a way for Taz to say that he knows what the real names of all the holds are.
Yeah.
I love him. It's great.
I did like hearing his voice again, by the way.
It was wonderful having him back on commentary, though, because he's just taken up that heel role.
Yeah.
The commentary, I think you do kind of need on commentary every now and
again.
again.
Balance.
You do need that balance. And he can there to put over the Don Callis family and like the stuff that Don Callis does.
Yeah.
Which then is fun, because when Donzo is like finally a respectable who's actually been in the ring.
A good example of that is when Stokely's there, and he's talking about his website,
helpbigstoke.com.
helpbigstoke.com, and then Taz goes, I like the website, I use it all the time, so I went on it, and
it's a legit website.
And I know, but I was like, what exactly do you use, Taz?
It's amazing.
Well, this is it. It's like, it's to donate, but you don't use the website all the time. Yeah. So that for me is a great example of Taz being like, I'm just going to support the heels regardless. And so even though I then follow it up and go like, well, Taz, you're lying, that just makes Taz look funnier. Yeah. And Taz look better at doing his heel job. I loved that.
I went to the website. And it is just it's a donation page, but it's just got a flat figures on it. It's like 1.1 million has already been donated,
and it's in Times New Roman as well. So it's like by the way, what we let down Times New Roman. Everyone used to love it, and then it got replaced by Calibri.
Yeah,
and then font.
If you click the donate link, it takes you through to a page that says you weren't going to donate enough, buy a t-shirt, and it's just got Stokes merchandise.
Love that.
It's superb. I like this. More of this, please. Megan Bain and Penelope Ford took on the Timeless Love Bombs. At the start of this, Bain picked up Miriam Shafir to throw her onto Tony Storm on the outside, and in the literal sense of the word, yeeted her to the point where she went over Tony Storm's head. And so she was like, I missed. So she picked up Penelope Ford and were like, have it.
Have another go.
Have another cry.
I love Megan Bain, man. I'm a big fan. And I love the whole presentation of her and Penelope. Like their music, their aesthetics. It's right up my street.
Megasus is so great. I loved this. And then we got the Doomsday device by Bain and Ford to get the win. But as Tony Storm was crawling back into the ring to break it up, Marina Shafir appeared out of nowhere and locked in Mother's Milk what is called Mother's Milk.
Yeah.
Why?
Just hate it.
You're not a big fan of Big Mummy Milkers? Sorry, I tried to get through that with a straight face, but I couldn't in the end.
It was a strike, Luke. You only get 3. I think because like years and years ago, my friends and I had a joke where she would just go, "Mother's Milk," like an Enid Blyton character expressing surprise.
How we do? She might just be a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan.
And then one of their albums. She's locked in the Mother's Milk. Just makes me then go like, "What are we talking about? Like, what are we doing here?" But okay,
so. It makes sense in a way of Marina Shafir was aligned with Megan Bain while Penelope Ford was injured. But did I need them to be a trio together, particularly as Shafir started doing this babyface stuff with the Death Riders? No.
Also, you don't have to be. If we're talking about Death Riders being babyface badasses, you don't have to be a white meat babyface. Like you can still come out and start a program with Timeless Tony Storm by choking her out. Like,
and it's what I loved about the Death Riders is that they are babyface now, but they've changed nothing about their act.
Like you can still come out and do that, but doing it in this context where you helped the heels win rather than just doing it after the match where you came out squared up with her and choked her out. I don't know what the program is going to be, if it is going to be a program between them two, or if it's going to be a trios. But if it's going to be trios, you're muddying waters that don't need to be muddied at this moment. That shows to me a lack of like long-term foresight.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going to do a singles, do this in a slightly different way. Don't even change the choke. Just do it in a slightly different way.
We've got a promo for Roderick Strong versus Claudio Castagnoli, which is taking place on Collision, I think, for the CMLL Championship. Oh, it is. I've written in my notes here. And because AEW are back into that habit of announcing so many matches ahead of time, Excalibur got to do his Micro Machines Man bit where he just runs through and just like it doesn't stop for breath. Takes us to our main event of Swerve Strickland versus Kevin Knight. This is a really, really good main event. Kevin Knight's superb. Swerve Strickland's great. And it was an amazing comeback bit from Knight, where it was the top rope Hurricane Rana straight into the coast to coast, which is how he beat Darby in the C2, straight into the UFO splash, crowd whipped up into a frenzy with each one to make it look like, and think Knight's going to beat Swerve here.
Before we get to the end, can I just sort of say that I think I started hearing them, here we are with our trios titles, and now I'm going to talk about our individual singles matches, and I was a little bit like, what are the point of these titles if we're not going to be a division? And yet I came around by the end of the night to the showcase for each of this tag team individually, to remind us that they're like really great as individuals and as a unit. I came around to it in the end, but I do have a little question mark over them.
I completely agree with you. If anything, the trios championships are often used as the same way I use the tag titles in my GM mode, which is just to give them a +5 popularity buff. But not actually build a division around the belts.
Yeah.
And these trio titles...
I will say that's an AEW problem. Like, it's been the whole time.
It has. The trios titles haven't... because they were invented just for the elite. They were invented so Kenny and the Bucks could win them, and they did. But then the day that they won them, they all got suspended because Brawl Out happened.
Yeah.
And it felt like from that moment on, they've not actually cared about these belts.
Yeah.
Because then they put them onto the elite, and they had their best of 7 series with the Death Triangle. But that's pretty much been about it. Like House of Black had them for ages. The Ops had them for ages.
Scissor, the Bang Bang Gang.
Not Bang Bang
Gang, the Scissor Boys.
Yeah. Like, whatever. Yeah, did they? Oh, yeah, they did, didn't they? I was there for it. I was there when they won them. Who else has had them? Oh, the Death Riders just had them for a bit. Like, they are the most proppy of prop belts within AEW that has always had the problem of prop belts. And it's a shame as well, because I love the trio. I love a 6-man tag title.
So do I, but I think the problem is that, like, when you're going to create belts for a division, that hoovers up 6 people at a time, and finding space for all of it becomes a bit tricky, and it feels like if every match is a title match, then no title match feels special.
Great. Yeah.
And if everyone walks out with a belt, then people walking out with belts isn't special. And I think there's a lack of cohesion. So I while I do think that both Speedball and Knight got a showcase here and certainly have me on notice, it is questionable the belt's existence.
I completely
agree. But then
are
we shouting into the void?
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, I mean, at this point, he'll introduce women's trios titles as well.
Yeah, right.
I can agree with the point you made earlier. This is a really good show. It is not must-watch television, but as a 2-hour wrestling show, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed myself. It's like with Collision most weeks. It's like, Collision is not must-watch television, but I do get some good wrestling off the back of it.
Yeah, you haven't finished your rundown of the match because there was a little bit that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay. So we got the Swerve 1, so I should say, sorry. We've got the Inverter Breaker and Big Pressure to get the win.
I had to rewatch those moves at the end there because I was like, are those? Is he? I don't know. And it just was interesting to me that both of those moves in a row looked like variants of Hangman and Kenny. Like, it looked like the Deadeye a little bit, and it looked like the One Winged Angel a little bit.
I see what you're saying.
And I was like, that was a nice little...
So Swerve's used Big Pressure a lot. Like
no, I'm not saying that like, it's not doing
the JML driver.
But I was just interested that last week there was a stare down with the 3 of them, and this match ended with 1, 2, 3 in a row. And if you're not looking properly, that looks a bit like a dead eye. If you're not looking properly, that looks a bit like a one-winged angel. There was something quite nice about that. I'm trying to compliment that.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was a really cute little
him
Easter eggy vibe thing. Also, MJF sat up in his box having champagne and watching the match. That's how I want to watch wrestling. Like, it looks great.
In those moments, do you know what I always spot? Why is there a lamp there? You know, you go to like a corporate box. Why do they get lamps?
Because you've never been in one.
I mean, no, I haven't.
I've been in one.
I've been invited to sit in a box, a royal box.
Oh, I've been in the royal box at the Albert Hall, Mariah Carey,
to go see a ballet later this year, which is on my 40 before 40 list. Although now it's my 40 while I'm 40 list. Because I've never seen a ballet live.
Great.
And a friend of mine was like, "I can get you into a royal box if you want."
Yeah.
Do they have lamps?
So yeah, I also you can actually get quite cheap tickets for boxes at theatres because there's such a restricted view because boxes were for people to be seen rather than to be seeing. Actually, they're quite a bargain. But the added advantage of them is you have your own little chair, so you can fidget as much as you want, and no fucker behind you is going to be opening and rustling some sweets. So it's great. Some of them have little lamps. Some of them have side tables.
Oh, hello.
But the ones
to put my book on
at the O2 have a whole little section where you can be in there milling about and schmoozing. You don't even have to watch the show. And then you can come out and watch the show if you want.
So we did that when Ollie and I did Raw last year. He got tickets on Twickets that ended up being a sort of like a box area. Because in a hospitality area, because I was texting someone who gets quite a lot of access to these sorts of things. And they said, "Oh, I think he might have been scammed because there's like getting into that box costs you like thousands of pounds per year to get it. So
because it's a company's box.
Because it's a company's box thing, right? But we were in them, and it was like you at your own bar, and then you sort of like go out, and we just went to our seats. When I
was in, I was the whole time watching the show.
We did the Skywalk thing where you can go out and have your sort of like they sort of take
climb
a
the
photo of
O2.
you. No, so they have like a little platform that comes out of the O2. And you can get your photo on there, and you're standing like just above the ring. So like a very cool photo to get. So I'm very grateful that we got that done. But there was no lamps.
No lamps.
So what delineates where a lamp is in and when a lamp is not?
I guess being the world champion.
I guess because MJF had a little lamp next to him.
Maybe he was making notes. Maybe he wanted to see what year the champagne was.
I guess so. I mean, it was a fairly well-lit area. I don't think he would have been struggling to read.
So it's a long day. Your eyesight goes by the end.
Well, that's it. Like, I put my bedside lamp on when I'm reading of an evening, so I want the big light on.
I can't read at nighttime because of the lamp being so dark.
Yeah. I get poor little eyesight.
It's because I'm knackered by the end of the day.
Yeah.
If
you go to bed at like 11:30, Dan, you're doing yourself a service day.
Go to bed at like 2 a.m.
What?
Yeah.
Are you mad?
I'm nocturnal.
Go to bed at 10, man.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We try and make it to 10, and then we'll read for a bit.
10 is when I come to life.
Or we'll go to bed at 9:30, and then we'll read.
Go to bed at 9:30?
Yeah, I will start work at 6 a.m.
as well as the truth, yeah.
Actually, when the kids not even the thing, I start work at 6 every day.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting up because like staying out much longer than that. Get about 9:30, read for 45 minutes, calm myself down.
Yeah.
And then go to bed.
I once had a nap at 9 p.m.
Honestly, the Traitors being moved to 8 p.m. has been the best thing. It's been an absolute joy for me because it finishes at 9.
Yeah.
I can watch a little bit of Uncloaked, see who's on it, see if I want to watch it or not, then I can go to bed.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Speaking of, actually, because it's time to do comments from last week's episode. And we did get this one from Belle Pearson that says, "Please do a podcast on Traitors UK."
Wow. It's about to finish, but maybe when it comes back.
Well, you can do recap, retrospective podcast, go back to the start.
Hours in the day. I'm not watching that back.
Camo Mustafa WWE says, "One of my main problems last year was understanding the design and direction for a story just for it to not finish or pause. John Cena's heel turn, Naomi versus Jade, Sami Zayn moving to SmackDown for no reason, the Dominic Roxanne story. You're selling me something just to not commit to it at the end. It played a role in killing my investment for future stories."
Delete Naomi versus Jade from that list,
because I had 3 conclusions.
That absolutely finished.
None of which Naomi won.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was when they had their match at Evolution. I was like, "Really? Still, we're doing this again, are we?" But I agree. Like that storyline did have a finish. Yeah. The only finish it's not had is Bianca's involvement in it because Bianca was there as a special guest referee. But I guess that her broken knuckle.
Can I tell you, when her music hits at the Royal Rumble, I am going to ascend to the heavens. I've missed that tune so much.
Brit Baller says, I might have a problem because I've watched both of the Invasion podcasts and now both weekly podcasts. Who needs a social life anyway?
It's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressive, actually, to have watched. Because we did like 2 hour-and-a-half podcasts last week. That was the 6 hours. Like, it's what? Like, you need 12 hours worth of stuff. 11.
It's nice to do it when you're cleaning.
Yeah,
I listen to it while I'm cleaning.
Oh, mate, when I was doing all my DIY, not DIY stuff, I put together, a chest of drawers, so I wouldn't call it DIY. But we did have a big move around of the kids' bedroom. I took apart an IKEA day bed. We moved her bed around. I built this chest of drawers. We put some Kallax units down. Completely revolutionized her bedroom.
I bet.
Podcast galore.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Because sometimes it used to be TV shows, but then when you watch them a lot, and it's like, I don't really feel in the mood to dive into the 4th season of The West Wing for no reason. Yeah. And I'm going to be in the other room anyway. Podcast, mate.
Yeah, podcast it. I did have music on for a little bit, and then my wife was like, your music is too aggressive.
And I like the level of deep dive within. This is one of the things that's so good about Extra, is that it's so... it's got so much that it's 6 hours, but it doesn't feel it. It's like active and,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And lastly here, Morgan says, WrestleTalk are getting lazy. A sub 4-hour podcast, unacceptable at the best of times, but especially when you have the Professor Dan the Tangent Layton.
I want you to know that I'm facilitated and encouraged by the man sat opposite me.
I do feel like I encourage it.
I'm just excited, all right?
Yeah. The tangent, though.
Stop it. That's not allowed to be a thing. No.
We're going to go on a tangent.
I can't afford a therapist again. That's not. No.
Do you have any recommendations for this week?
What have I been watching this week? What have I been doing this week? I'm reading a book it's called Enshittification by Cory Doctorow, which I find really horrifying. I'm hoping that soon I'm going to get to the bit where he tells me how we're going to fix it, because I know it's coming because I've read the chapter lists.
Yeah. But what I do know is one of them is the user search engine that you have to pay for.
Well, so this is the thing, is that ultimately it's all about how basically it's like, that thing that was really good, like social media apps, where they start really good, they provide the user with something that makes their life better,
enriches,
and then they start doing more for the business side, and then they ultimately screw us both over, and they don't. It becomes bad for all of us, and it's that over and over again. And the problem is, and it's the same thing with the Spotify book, The Mood Machine, that I was about to read, which is that ultimately we have arrived in a world where convenience is king, and it is convenient for us to pay $9.99 a month to have access to all the music in the world, even if that money is being used for heinous things, and even if the data that they're getting from us is being used for heinous things. So how do we convince people to go back to what it was before, where it was a more expensive but ultimately better thing, where like I bought a CD and I owned it. If I stop paying Spotify, I can't listen to that CD anymore, kind of thing. If I buy audiobooks on Amazon, I can't ultimately... You
don't own them,
and Amazon can choose to take them away from me if they want to, because they can do whatever they want. It's a really interesting insight into how we're in the position now where wealth inequality is so big, and businesses are being stretched, and monopolies are a thing, and it's just it's a bit horrific to read a lot of it. But yeah, I find it quite interesting, and I'm going a bit activist in my old age.
I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed Andor so much, which I thought was a tremendous show, is not just because it's set in really the only interesting part of Star Wars, which is around the first 3 movies, is that it was a lot about sort of like standing up against the establishment and sort of like rebelling against the establishment, sort of like that Rage Against the Machine sort of like attitude that we had during the 1990s, which I sort of very much subscribe to. And I feel like we are getting to a point now where, particularly people our age, I feel like it is like, no, I'm not saying too much our age because I'm a couple of years older.
I'm 27.
But you're 27. But we are like sort of getting off social media. We're switching off social media. And if anything, I start to feel like social media is just going to be used by people in their 60s. Like it's going to be used by my mum, basically, because I don't think particularly if the laws pass here and kids can't get onto it until they're 16, it is going to, like much like smoking, just sort of kill off a bit of an industry there. And there's not going to be much of a market for it. Like I'm starting to get really frustrated with Spotify. I feel like Spotify doesn't make people appreciate music.
Yep.
Because I think if you just have access to everything, then
value.
Yeah, like
art has value.
When I used to buy a CD back in the day, I would listen to that CD multiple times and over again.
Because I listen to less music.
Because it cost me 15 quid to buy. I'm not just going to sack it off like the instant I bought it. But man, if I'm like 3 tracks in, I'm like, this is not for me. it makes me not appreciate albums. There's nothing, so I'm trying to do much better at listening to albums in full, A, when I go for runs, but B, if I can rag on Spotify for a minute,
Please,
if I delete a song from a queue, don't put it back in. I've asked you to remove it from the queue for a reason, you broken thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what else it's starting to do now? This is another thing that playlists are broken with. If I pause a playlist and I come back to it the following day, it sent me back about 30 songs.
Yeah.
And those songs that I listened to previously, those 30 songs, are in the exact same order. So every day, if I want to listen to it, it is glitchy. I have to look and it was like, okay, how far does it throw me back? Scroll. Right, I was at this point in the playlist. If you're so broken, why am I paying for you?
And it's a thing where like it's extended to everything. Like you might buy a light bulb that changes colors. You control it with an app on your phone, but in a bit they're going to change the app on the phone so that you have to pay to be able to do it. Like in things like that, it's all of these business practices that ultimately are about upping the value for shareholders and providing us with a less good experience. And I think we're at sort of a tipping point a little bit where, and I think the reason the social media example is really interesting is that it wasn't older people on there to begin with, and so they didn't understand it.
So
they would see us on the social media and be like, what are you on that Instagram for? So then they join it at a time when it's already begun the enshittification process. So for them, it's the same as it ever was, and they're not as savvy or aware. Yeah. Whereas for us, we're like, oh, it used to provide us with something.
This used to be good.
This used to give us something.
The internet used to be good.
I think we're reaching a point where so little it would be one thing if we were making more money, but the reality of the situation is we're not. And the things that we're using and we believe that we own, we no longer own, because even if you buy that light bulb, you're going to then have to pay to use that light bulb rather than just being able to plug it in and have it work. So I think that we're getting to a point, and it's just a really interesting book, and there are loads of other avenues and people to listen to on the topic. I find it really interesting we're getting to a point where things aren't working for us anymore, and things aren't starting to work for some of the businesses anymore. So what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, we came to that realization with YouTube. It's like, you know, this was a big last year thing for us. Is that for 10 years we've been working for YouTube. Now, actually, we're going to make YouTube work for us, right? Because their payouts suck.
Because I do believe that there are still an audience of people out there who want to find the things. Like, I'm a creator on Instagram where it's like, I'm not your shiny, you know, influencer type. I'm just a person. I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. There's still people looking for that. It's just harder for them to find it, so you have to make it work for you. Yeah. But it's so I'm curious. Highly recommend enshittification.
Yeah, algorithm based systems stink.
Yeah,
because they're not really designed for you, the user.
They're ultimately designed for the company who makes the algorithm. They're not designed for the businesses either.
They're not designed for you. They're designed for your attention.
Yeah.
And that is really what it comes down to. So I was chatting to a chap about this yesterday when I went out for a coffee with him. I'm well against algorithms. Actually, do you know what? It's why I really like Patreon. You know, it's not just because I'm trying to, you know, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. I'm doing the usual plug. Legit, when they posted up a video, their founder posted up this video for, I think it was the New York Times, that really was, and I want to believe that it is a genuine look at things, because I have, you know, my cynical heart, my not quite Gen Xer. I'm a millennial with a Gen Xer attitude, and a Gen X mindset. I want to believe that he is truthful when he says, I want the internet to go back to the way the internet used to be when it was good, and it was designed for users to get the content that they actually wanted, as opposed to an algorithm thinking it knows what you want.
Well, I mean, he was an artist. So
yeah, exactly. It was the point that he makes. He's like, I used to make music for YouTube, and I cultivate an audience for it now. Now, if I make music for YouTube, I've got to try and like make songs that will fall into an algorithm to help people find me.
And Patreon is you know, a community, like, as well. It's something
what
where you
after.
can connect with people, and I think anyone with a Patreon can always do more to try and make sure that community is, because it's not just, you know, because those people then fund the work that you do, so there's lots going on there, but you want to make sure that funding is being met with that reward of that space and that community and things like that. So, and you can do free memberships on there as well. I just think it's a really interesting time.
Yeah, I completely agree.
This book, that's why this book is my rec at the moment.
I've got one that's a bit lighter, so I'm going to have to...
Oh, he's got props today.
I've got props. I just need to bring up my phone just to remind me of what the album was called, because I do want to recommend an album.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to tag the end of the episode with a bit of news that's lately come out. Prue Leith is leaving Bake Off.
I saw that this morning.
There are rumours that she's going to be replaced by Nigella Lawson, and I don't know if I'll be able to cope. That sounds like heaven on earth.
I mean, look, I think Bake Off is a show that is...
Don't you rag on Bake Off. I'm not on my time.
Look, here's the thing with Bake Off, right?
He's put his phone down. I'm sorry, everybody. I've tangented us again. Look, how about we enable each other?
The tangents.
No!
Here's my thing with Bake Off, right? I think Bake Off is a good show. I think Bake Off has gotten too big. And now it is not a case of can you make a nice Victoria sponge. Now it's a case of can you make 12 Victoria sponges in the time we're only going to allow you time to make 6.
Make Bake Off great again, is what you're saying.
Make Bake Off great again. Yeah. It's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
And also, I'm really sick of just like, I can't believe I'm in the tent. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Like oh, the Hollywood handshake. Oh yeah, they're just popping. They're just popping for the spots in the show now.
If they do get Nigella giving you the eye is far better.
Honestly, if Nigella's on that show, like I'm going to be taping, and I'll be watching them multiple times over.
Oh dear. I mean, but you and me both, but for very different reasons.
So my album recommendation is by a band called Theon, and the album is called Scum, with a full stop at the end. It's really good. I actually, I'm sort of ragging on the algorithm and stuff, but I actually did discover them through the algorithm. I was recommended a video of them, and it was them doing a cover of System of a Down's Toxicity, and it was a beautiful cover of the song. They have released it as a single, and it made me want to listen to the album. Really, really good. It's got it's very like Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh yeah.
It's got a lot of sort of like pop punk attitude to it. Really, really great. They seem like wonderful people. Go check out Theon. It's FIONN. And the album's called Scum. I saved quite a few songs to my Now That's What I Call Luke playlist.
Perfect.
So that's my recommendation. I don't think I've recommended it before. It did come out last year.
Yeah.
And I did listen to it last year, but I've listened to it again recently. That's going to be it for this episode. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Go and support us over there. It is the best way to support this channel, actually, because you can go and see us right now reviewing Unreal Season 2. Should do it the American way. Episode by episode.
No, shouldn't do it. Fuck them.
Series
it's our language.
Series 2. Go and check that over episode by episode breakdown over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. We're back on Tuesday with the Raw review, but no WrestleTalk podcast next Friday because we're gearing up for the Royal Rumble, and because of the way the YouTube algorithm works, it'll just get completely swallowed up come Saturday, so there's literally no point us making one.
Yeah.
So no episode next Friday, but there will be an episode on Tuesday where we'll be doing the Raw review, and then an episode on Wednesday where we're doing our Royal Rumble predictions.
Fabulous.
And then on that coming Saturday, myself and Ollie Davis will be on patreon.com/WrestleTalk doing live reactions to the Royal Rumble from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We'll be here.
You're going to be in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Wow.
Via Hackney. Okay. Where we'll be doing it here in studio. It's Ollie Davis' triumphant return. And then we'll be on Sunday reviewing the Royal Rumble on the WrestleTalk podcast. So go check out
calendars.
Market calendars indeed. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Thank you all. Love you. Goodbye.